TLC just dropped a bomb that nobody saw coming. Andre and Elizabeth, the couple who dominated every season with their explosive fights and unpredictable chaos, are banned for life. After years of drama, tantrums, and headline-making moments, one moment finally changed everything. How does a duo that kept millions glued to their screens, laughing, gasping, and sometimes cringing, manage to burn every single bridge they ever had? Fans have always been addicted to their chaos, but behind the cameras, things were spiraling faster than anyone realized. Producers whispered, crew members walked on eggshells, and even Elizabeth looked like she was trying to hold on to a sinking ship. But what happened backstage is even messier than you think, and it's not what you expect. Andre and Elizabeth were never just another couple on reality TV. From the very first season they appeared on, the drama seemed endless, almost magnetic. Fans couldn't look away when Andre stormed through a room or when Elizabeth's calm exterior cracked, revealing bursts of frustration that could rival any soap opera finale. But as the episodes rolled on, a pattern emerged. Every outburst, every tantrum, every argument followed a predictable rhythm. Andre's ego clashed constantly with producers, with crew members, and sometimes even with Elizabeth. He had this alpha energy on camera, confident, controlling, larger than life, but behind the scenes, reports describe something far more volatile. He could charm the cameras while verbally lashing out at the crew, leaving everyone walking on eggshells. Elizabeth was equally complex. On camera, she often appeared the more composed half of the duo, balancing Andre's fiery personality with her measured responses. But behind closed doors, even she had limits, and there were moments when her patience frayed. She was loyal, sure, but loyal in ways that sometimes trapped her in the chaos rather than helping her escape it. Their dynamic became a strange mix of addiction and exhaustion for viewers. You could see it. You loved the energy, the unpredictability, the sparks. But at the same time, you wondered if this could ever end without disaster. What made them so irresistible to fans wasn't just the arguments or the tantrums, it was the push and pull of public versus private behavior. Andre on screen was a star, a commanding figure who dominated every conversation, every scene, every camera angle. But backstage? He was unpredictable, controlling, and in moments, downright toxic. Producers reportedly tolerated behavior that would have sunk lesser stars years ago. And Elizabeth, for all her grace under pressure, sometimes had to maneuver through his mood swings like a diplomat walking a minefield. The contrast was stark, and that tension hooked audiences season after season. You ever wonder why TLC kept letting this chaos play out? Ratings were part of it, sure. Viewers couldn't look away, and every explosive scene brought in clicks, social media chatter, and water cooler conversations. But there was more to it than just numbers. Andre and Elizabeth had a strange chemistry with disaster. Every argument wasn't just conflict. It was an event. And every time Andre lost control, fans felt it, living through the tension in real time as if they were in the room themselves. And yet, the chaos wasn't only for show. Some moments crossed lines that went beyond entertainment. There were reports of behind-the-scenes verbal attacks on crew members, manipulation of storylines, and behavior that threatened production schedules. It wasn't subtle. Crew members had to step in more than once to calm situations that could have easily turned physical. Elizabeth, often the voice of reason, would try to mediate, but she couldn't stop Andre from igniting the tension. The unpredictability became part of the narrative itself. Fans were addicted because every episode carried the promise of another escalation. But secretly, everyone working on the show was waiting for the inevitable collapse. And then there were the microdrama moments that kept viewers guessing. Arguments over mundane details like whose idea a trip was or what should be packed in a bag would explode into full-blown meltdowns. Andre's temper was legendary, Elizabeth's patience heroic. But even that could only last so long. Behind the cameras, producers faced the dilemma of managing two people who had become too unpredictable to control without intervention. And yet, they kept them around. Was it for the drama? Was it a gamble that the ratings outweighed the chaos? Or did someone believe they could finally rein in a storm that seemed impossible to stop. This tension created a duality that made the couple fascinating. Publicly, they were stars, entertaining millions with every fight, every pout, every moment of vulnerability. Privately, they were dangerously close to crossing every line a production could tolerate. Their behavior became a tightrope act, one misstep away from disaster, but it was precisely this unpredictability that kept audiences glued. Fans loved them because they were messy, because they were real, because they were both infuriating and captivating. Every season built upon the last, layering emotional stakes that were impossible to ignore. Andre's control issues were the kind that could dominate a room before anyone realized what was happening. He had a way of twisting conversations to make himself the center of attention. Elizabeth, meanwhile, often bore the brunt of his moods, navigating a minefield that few could survive. Fans watching could see the chemistry, the tension, the love, the frustration, but they only got fragments. The reality behind the camera was even more charged. Reports suggest that even minor disagreements could spiral into long, exhausting conflicts, leaving crew members and even other cast members wary of stepping into the same space. And yet, for all the chaos, there were moments of charm and vulnerability that reminded audiences why they kept watching. Elizabeth's attempts to calm the storm, Andre's flashes of humor, even the awkward moments where they seemed almost human, gave fans a reason to keep tuning in. They weren't perfect, but in their imperfection, they were addictive. People wanted to see what would happen next, even if they were frustrated, even if they were angry, even if they worried this couldn't end well. The duality of their world, public alpha, private chaos, created a tension that was almost unbearable. Each scene set up another question. How far would this go? When would the network finally step in? Could Elizabeth manage to protect herself and her sanity while staying loyal? These questions hovered over every episode, making each season feel like it was teetering on the edge of collapse. Every minor altercation became a potential tipping point, every offhand comment a possible spark for a full-blown disaster. And as we inch closer to the moments that led to their lifetime ban, all these threads start to intertwine. The public versus private personas, the ego clashes, the manipulation, the loyal yet trapped partner, the crew walking on eggshells. These were all building blocks of a story that was heading for an explosive climax. Fans loved the ride, but the backstage tension was setting the stage for something far more dramatic than what appeared on camera. And this is where the story starts to twist in ways no one expected. Andre's control issues weren't just a quirk, they were an escalating storm behind the cameras. Producers repeatedly reported that he tried to dictate not only how scenes played out, but also how Elizabeth reacted. It wasn't just assertive behavior, it became aggressive, bordering on threatening. Crew members described moments where he would snap at minor mistakes, yelling over simple scheduling issues, or questioning why someone dared to question him. The tension was constant, like a pressure cooker set to explode. Elizabeth, as always, bore the weight of his moods, juggling the need to protect herself, manage Andre's outbursts, and keep the production from completely spiraling. Her calmness on camera hid the immense emotional labor happening behind the scenes. She was loyal, yes, but even loyalty has limits. Just when you think the chaos might settle, Andre escalated. One incident involved him confronting a producer over an allegedly misrepresented scene. Voices were raised, doors slammed, and the crew felt the kind of stress that makes you double-check every word you say. Elizabeth intervened, trying to calm the situation, but it was like trying to stop a hurricane with an umbrella. Viewers might have loved the tension between them on screen, but backstage, the stakes were real. Careers, reputations, and safety were on the line. It's the kind of drama that keeps audiences glued, because we instinctively watch chaos and want to understand how it unfolds and if it will ever resolve. Andre's aggression didn't stop at producers. He reportedly directed sharp comments at Elizabeth when he felt she wasn't aligned with his expectations. Fans saw snippets of his dominance on camera, but the intensity backstage was higher, more unpredictable. Elizabeth's responses were measured, reflective of someone constantly balancing love, loyalty, and self-preservation. It's a tension viewers relate to more than they realize. The thrill of witnessing conflict, paired with empathy for someone trying to maintain composure in the eye of the storm. People stay for the unpredictable energy, but they also connect with the emotional reality beneath it. Then came the incidents that tipped the scales. The first major episode involved a heated confrontation during a late-night reshoot. Andre allegedly shouted at a small group of crew members, accusing them of manipulating scenes, while Elizabeth tried to mediate. The exchange became so intense that production temporarily paused, and senior staff intervened to prevent it from escalating further. The stakes weren't just emotional, they were logistical and reputational. Fans may have thought it was another dramatic moment for the cameras, but backstage, the drama had reached a point where it could no longer be ignored. Just when it seemed like a resolution might appear, Andre reportedly turned his frustration toward Elizabeth, criticizing her for not supporting him enough. Her composure was impressive. She listened, responded gently, and attempted to redirect the conversation. But this pattern, Andre's aggression versus Elizabeth's calm, was wearing down everyone around them. Viewers might find this dynamic fascinating or even addictive, and there's a psychological reason for it. Humans are wired to pay attention to conflict, tension, and resolution. Watching someone navigate a high-stakes emotional environment creates a mix of anxiety and excitement that's hard to step away from. The second incident, however, was the one that TLC couldn't ignore. During a multi-hour filming session, Andre allegedly verbally assaulted multiple crew members and refused to follow production guidelines. The confrontation escalated to the point where filming had to stop entirely, throwing the schedule into chaos. Elizabeth again tried to intervene, reminding him of contractual obligations and the need to de-escalate. Her calm approach contrasted sharply with Andre's unpredictability, highlighting their ongoing pattern. One volatile personality meeting the emotional labor of a partner trying to maintain control in a chaotic environment. Fans might wonder why anyone would stay glued to such intensity. There's a psychological pull to drama like this, the mix of unpredictability, emotional highs and lows, and the subtle hope that someone will finally succeed in calming the storm. Andre and Elizabeth's relationship created a constant tension between fear, anticipation, and fascination. Each explosive moment was paired with a potential resolution, keeping viewers engaged and emotionally invested. That push-pull effect is addictive. You want to see if the crisis ends, but part of you also wants it to escalate because the stakes are so high. Just when you think it's over, Andre flips the table again. After the second major incident, the production had to make a tough call. There's only so much chaos a show can tolerate, no matter how magnetic the personalities involved. Elizabeth remained composed, but even she could only mitigate so much. The repeated warnings, the volatile behavior, the tension affecting everyone on set, all these factors converged. What made this even more shocking was that Andre's actions weren't isolated moments of frustration. They were part of a repeated pattern that had finally reached its breaking point. And if you thought they were done, wait until you hear what tipped the scales forever. Behind the scenes, TLC executives reportedly reviewed every incident carefully. Andre's attempts at controlling scenes, his aggression, the disruption to the production schedule, and the repeated stress placed on Elizabeth created a scenario they could no longer ignore. The network had tolerated chaos for years because it drew viewers, but the tipping point had been reached. Ratings weren't worth safety risks or an environment where staff felt unsafe. Elizabeth's composed responses highlighted a stark contrast. She had consistently tried to protect both herself and the show, but Andre's behavior had become unsustainable. Psychologically, this is exactly what keeps audiences riveted. Watching someone navigate extreme tension, particularly with an uneven power dynamic, triggers a cocktail of emotional responses. You feel anticipation, anxiety, and empathy simultaneously. The human brain is drawn to high-stakes scenarios where outcomes are uncertain. That explains why even fans who were frustrated with Andre couldn't stop watching. They were emotionally invested in Elizabeth's ability to survive the chaos while hoping, even subconsciously, for Andre to finally self-regulate. The network intervention was inevitable once these major incidents occurred. Andre's pattern had escalated beyond entertainment. Elizabeth's patience, loyalty, and emotional labor had sustained them for years, but the production's tolerance finally hit its limit. The contrast between his volatility and her calm, reflective responses magnified the drama and clarified the stakes. The fallout wasn't immediate, but it was irreversible. The story was heading toward a conclusion that would shock fans and insiders alike and set a precedent for how far a reality show will go to protect its production while maintaining audience engagement. Just when it seemed like the story had reached its climax, one final backstage moment solidified everything. Andre reportedly challenged a senior producer during a scene reshoot, raising his voice, throwing verbal accusations, and creating tension that rippled through the entire crew. Elizabeth remained composed, reminding him quietly of boundaries and expectations, but the incident exposed the unsustainable dynamic for all to see. It wasn't about who was right or wrong. It was about patterns repeating to the point where intervention became the only viable option. The intensity of these moments explains why fans are so addicted to watching. Chaos in high-stakes situations draws viewers because of emotional anticipation. We watch, hoping for resolution, fearing escalation, and empathizing with those caught in the middle. Andre and Elizabeth offered this experience episode after episode. But behind the cameras, the stakes were higher, and the consequences more serious. Each incident, each outburst, each intervention became a critical piece of the story that led directly to the ultimate decision that would change everything. And if you thought they were done, wait until you hear what tipped the scales forever. The moment TLC announced Andre and Elizabeth were banned for life, the internet exploded. Social media accounts lit up with reactions ranging from shock to celebration. Fans who had followed their journey for years debated fiercely. Some cheered, feeling like justice had finally been served after years of backstage chaos. Others sympathized, pointing out Elizabeth's unwavering patience and Andre's occasional charm. It was clear that this couple had always existed in a gray zone, simultaneously captivating and infuriating. Every clip, every heated argument, every chaotic moment had built a complex narrative in fans' minds. The announcement didn't just end their story, it forced viewers to reassess it. Memes began flooding timelines within hours. One viral post joked about Andre needing a manual for life, while another highlighted Elizabeth's calm reactions with the caption, "The real MVP of reality TV." Reaction videos piled up, each offering theories, dissecting scenes, or replaying backstage snippets to determine who was really at fault. Fans argued, laughed, and cried, all at once. Even casual viewers couldn't resist weighing in. There's something about watching someone push boundaries that triggers a mix of fascination and moral judgment. People wanted to know whether TLC had done the right thing or if banning them was overkill. This split in opinion reflected more than fandom. It reflected human psychology. Some viewers prioritized moral expectations. A person cannot continually disrupt and endanger a production without consequence. Others focused on behavioral fascination, captivated by Andre's unpredictability and Elizabeth's diplomacy. Watching patterns of chaos can be addictive, almost like a live experiment in human interaction. Why did Andre keep testing boundaries? Why did Elizabeth keep responding with restraint? Fans couldn't look away. This combination of unpredictability and high stakes created a perfect storm of engagement. Humor also became a way for the audience to process the drama. TikTok videos reenacting Andre's backstage outbursts went viral, each exaggerating his intensity for laughs. Twitter users shared sarcastic commentary about production meetings, and even YouTube reaction channels joined in, dissecting every detail of the ban. The commentary wasn't just entertainment. It was a way for viewers to make sense of extreme behavior while also connecting over shared opinions. The collective laughter, debate, and outrage formed a kind of social glue around the story, keeping it alive long after the events themselves. Then there were the questions that kept fans talking. Would you have sided with TLC or stayed loyal to Andre and Elizabeth? Could anyone truly predict the tipping point? Even longtime viewers were divided. Some argued the ban was inevitable. Others felt it punished a couple whose drama had been the lifeblood of the show for years. This division shows how complicated fan loyalty can be. People attach emotionally to characters, but behavioral consequences exist in parallel. Watching a story unfold over years, fans develop nuanced views that blend admiration, frustration, and empathy. Psychologically, the saga illustrates the cost of unchecked ego and fame. Andre's repeated aggression and attempts to control everyone around him eventually led to public consequences. Elizabeth's loyalty and restraint, while admirable, didn't shield them from systemic intervention. For viewers, it's a lesson in human behavior. Charm or charisma can keep chaos alive temporarily, but patterns repeat and limits eventually arrive. Observing these consequences in real time satisfies a deeper curiosity about cause and effect, morality, and emotional responsibility. And yet, even fans who knew them best couldn't predict this final twist. The backlash and praise continued in waves. Fan theories suggested TLC had been monitoring Andre and Elizabeth for years, waiting for a moment when their behavior could no longer be contained. Others speculated about potential spin-offs, redemption arcs, or surprise returns, but the network remained firm. No reconciliation, no second chances. That finality shocked many viewers, forcing them to confront the reality that some actions have irreversible consequences. For a franchise that thrives on tension and surprise, this ban was a rare moment of clarity, the narrative had an endpoint, and it was uncompromising. Meanwhile, the humor online kept the story alive without softening the stakes. Reaction videos highlighted Elizabeth's calm interventions, while satirical content exaggerated Andre's explosive moments. Fans joked about Andre proofing production, theorized about what staff members must have endured, and even debated who handled the chaos better. The humor made the story accessible, allowed collective venting, and reinforced the emotional connection viewers had developed over the years. It's fascinating how shared laughter and commentary can coexist with deep emotional investment, blending critique with affection. Debates over fairness were rampant. Could TLC have handled it differently? Was the ban too harsh? Should Elizabeth have left earlier? These discussions revealed the tension between behavioral standards and emotional attachment. Fans weren't just consuming drama, they were evaluating morality, loyalty, and consequences in real-life contexts. Social media became a mirror reflecting their values, biases, and understanding of human relationships. Andre and Elizabeth's story became more than a reality show. It became a cultural case study in behavior, power dynamics, and emotional investment. The narrative resonance of this ban also highlighted why reality TV thrives on contrast. Andre's volatility versus Elizabeth's calmness created repeated tension, which engaged viewers emotionally and cognitively. Watching someone manage a partner's extreme behavior triggers empathy, anticipation, and sometimes personal reflection. Fans could see themselves in Elizabeth, recognize toxic patterns, or even question their tolerance for conflict in their own lives. That emotional mirroring is part of what keeps audiences invested, making the story feel immediate, personal, and unforgettable. At the same time, the split in fan reaction showed how subjective engagement can be. Some cheered, some sympathized, and some were glued by sheer curiosity. The combination of suspense, behavioral drama, and emotional insight made the story magnetic. Fans couldn't scroll past. They returned to clips, memes, and discussions repeatedly. The conversation around Andre and Elizabeth became a self-sustaining cycle of fascination, humor, and moral evaluation. And yet, even fans who knew them best couldn't predict this final twist. By the time the dust settled, the story had transformed from mere entertainment into a broader lesson about fame, ego, and the consequences of repeated behavior. Andre's aggression, Elizabeth's restraint, and TLC's firm intervention created a multi-layered narrative that engaged viewers on multiple levels, emotionally, psychologically, and socially. The ban didn't just remove a couple from a show, it sent a message about limits, accountability, and the hidden labor behind reality television. It reminded fans that real-life consequences exist, even for those whose drama has long been commodified. Fan engagement didn't end with the announcement. Social platforms continued to buzz, with analysis videos, countdowns to the ban, and retrospective clips examining the couple's most dramatic moments. Each post prompted discussions, laughter, and debate. Fans revisited old episodes, reinterpreting interactions in light of what happened. The duality between public persona and private behavior became even clearer, showing the human fascination with complexity and contradiction. By examining reactions, it's clear that people connect deeply with stories that combine tension, unpredictability, and emotional stakes. Andre and Elizabeth created this dynamic naturally, offering moments that were both infuriating and captivating. Viewers who cheered at the ban did so with a sense of moral satisfaction. Those who sympathized did so with recognition of effort, patience, and human imperfection. The interplay of admiration, frustration, and ethical reasoning made the fallout compelling. Even in this final chapter, the story continues to resonate. Fans debate who handled the chaos better, dissect the psychological patterns, and reflect on what they would do in similar situations. The public's fascination with Andre and Elizabeth shows how reality TV can magnify human behavior and expose both the consequences of ego and the resilience of those who navigate it. The narrative leaves viewers with a mix of relief, shock, and reflection, ensuring the conversation and engagement remains high long after the ban. And yet, even fans who knew them best couldn't predict this final twist. With the dust finally settling, questions remain. Could Andre have changed? Did Elizabeth's patience extend too long? And most importantly, what lessons can viewers take from watching behavior collide with consequences in real time? These lingering questions keep discussions alive and ensure that the story stays relevant in fan communities, social media, and reaction channels. The drama may have ended on screen, but the emotional and psychological ripples will last far longer. By capturing public reaction, social media frenzy, and the complex human responses to extreme behavior, this chapter completes the arc of the saga. It reinforces why the ban was both shocking and inevitable, why fans remain divided, and why reality TV continues to hold a mirror to human behavior. Through laughter, debate, and fascination, viewers explore morality, loyalty, and emotional endurance, all while staying glued to the screen, hungry for the next twist. And yet, even fans who knew them best couldn't predict this final twist. Andre stormed out of the spotlight, and for the first time, it felt like the chaos he had thrived on for years was finally hitting him back. Fans had watched him dominate every scene, every argument, every confrontation. But the ban stripped him of the authority he had relied on for so long. No longer could his voice dictate the pace. No longer could he manipulate the narrative. The tables had turned, and the shift was brutal. Elizabeth, on the other hand, seemed almost untouched by the official verdict. Calm, measured, and distant from the fallout, she stepped back and let the consequences play out around her. Her restraint highlighted just how unsustainable Andre's aggression had been. For years, viewers saw Andre as a leader, the alpha, the one in control. Cameras captured him orchestrating chaos, maintaining dominance, and keeping the drama alive. Behind the scenes, however, production insiders described a man losing patience, a person whose volatility was both exhausting and dangerous. Elizabeth, caught in the middle, performed emotional labor the audience rarely saw, diffusing tension, calming crew members, and maintaining a semblance of order. This duality, public control versus private unraveling, made the ultimate ban feel both shocking and inevitable. Fans quickly noticed the reversal of power. Andre, once untouchable, became the cautionary figure. Elizabeth's quiet composure, previously overshadowed by his outbursts, became the anchor of the story. Social media echoed this shift. Clips highlighting her patience circulated alongside memes emphasizing Andre's loss of influence. The emotional contrast was stark. For many viewers, it felt like a long-awaited moment of justice. The narrative satisfaction came not from humiliation alone, but from witnessing a pattern of behavior finally meet real-world consequences. The consequences weren't only public. Andre's personal reputation took a hit. Former allies within the franchise distanced themselves, production teams kept tight boundaries, and the network made it clear his reign of chaos was over. For someone whose identity had been entwined with visibility and control, the loss was profound. Elizabeth, in contrast, seemed to gain a form of quiet power, her influence evident not through drama, but through composure and integrity. The emotional stakes weren't about revenge, they were about real consequences meeting real behavior, and the audience felt it deeply. Viewers also reflected on the broader lessons. Loyalty has limits, and boundaries matter. Andre's repeated disregard for structure and respect ultimately backfired, showing that unchecked ego carries a cost. Elizabeth's example highlighted the value of self-preservation and measured response. Watching their dynamic offered insight into human behavior. One can appear powerful without actually being in control, while quiet patience and discernment can offer more lasting influence. For fans, this was more than entertainment. It was a subtle study in consequences, emotional intelligence, and personal accountability. Even within the fan base, reactions highlighted the psychological complexity. Some expressed sympathy for Andre, pointing out how fame and chaos can distort self-perception. Others focused on Elizabeth, admiring her ability to navigate a toxic environment without losing herself. This mirrored real-life dilemmas. How do we respond to people who disrupt our lives while still holding on to relationships or responsibilities? The story allowed fans to project, reflect, and debate, keeping engagement high while illustrating the tangible costs of behavior unchecked over time. Production insiders hinted that the decision to ban Andre and Elizabeth sent ripples across the franchise. Crew morale improved, tensions dropped, and the network reaffirmed its authority. This wasn't just a punishment, it was a statement. Reality TV thrives on drama, but even the most captivating personalities must respect boundaries. Fans watching these updates realized that behind every heated scene, there's a balance between spectacle and safety. And in this instance, the network drew the line firmly. Elizabeth's composure became a quiet revelation. For years, viewers might have overlooked her role in the chaos, but now her ability to remain centered contrasted sharply with Andre's volatility. Her emotional intelligence shone through, not in loud moments, but in how she chose her responses, when she spoke, and when she let situations unfold without interference. This reversal demonstrated that power isn't always about the loudest voice or the most dramatic actions. It's about influence, respect, and awareness. Fans couldn't help but reframe their perception of the couple, seeing Elizabeth in a new light while understanding why Andre's patterns led to the inevitable fallout. Psychologically, the narrative reinforces an uncomfortable truth: appearances can deceive. Andre's on-camera confidence masked a growing inability to manage real consequences. Elizabeth's quiet patience, often overlooked, provided stability and longevity. The contrast underscores a lesson that applies beyond reality TV. True influence is measured by consistency and respect, not by momentary dominance. For viewers, this invites reflection on personal boundaries, relational dynamics, and the consequences of tolerating repeated disruptive behavior. Even after the ban, the story sparked debate. Could Andre have changed if given another chance? Was Elizabeth's patience too enduring or perfectly calibrated? Fans dissected every interaction, analyzing body language, tone, and context. This ongoing fascination proves that the emotional fallout wasn't just about punishment, it was about understanding human behavior and how repeated patterns eventually lead to real consequences. The narrative held up a mirror to both drama and audience psychology, keeping people engaged long after the final scenes aired, because the network's decision sent shockwaves no one could ignore. By the end, the emotional reversal was clear. Andre's loss of control highlighted the fragility of influence built on chaos. Elizabeth's measured distance showed the strength of self-preservation and composure. Fans recognized that behavior has a lifespan, and unchecked volatility can only carry someone so far. The juxtaposition of their outcomes created a story that was gripping, insightful, and instructive. The drama may have ended on screen, but the psychological resonance stayed with viewers, prompting reflection on loyalty, limits, and the real cost of toxic patterns. And yet, even with this clarity, questions linger. Could Andre have found a path back to influence without repeating mistakes? Did Elizabeth's choices reflect strategy, patience, or self-respect? The answers are layered. just like the story itself. Fans continue to debate, analyze, and share content, proving that even a final ban doesn't erase the fascination. The emotional fallout serves as both conclusion and springboard, maintaining curiosity while delivering hard-earned lessons in human behavior. This chapter leaves one last tension. The story isn't over yet. The couple may be banned from the show, but their legacy, lessons, and the audience's emotional investment continue. Fans are left reflecting, discussing, and waiting for the ripple effects, proof that drama with real consequences always leaves an imprint. The reversal of power, the psychological insights, and the emotional resonance make this final act as compelling as any episode that came before, because the network's decision sent shockwaves no one could ignore. The saga of Andre and Elizabeth, stripped of on-screen authority yet layered with consequences, reminds us why reality TV captivates and teaches simultaneously. Chaos may entertain, but boundaries, restraint, and accountability determine the ultimate outcome. As fans continue to debate and reflect, the story remains alive, a cautionary tale and a psychological case study rolled into one, setting the stage for the next chapter of 90-day Fiancé drama. Because the network's decision sent shockwaves no one could ignore. TLC's final word was clear. Andre and Elizabeth were banned for life. No appeals, no second chances, no spin-offs. The couple that had dominated headlines, enraged fans, and divided the audience was officially cut from the franchise. The announcement sent shockwaves across social media, reality TV forums, and the 90-Day Fiancé fan community. Fans who had watched every tantrum, every manipulation, every dramatic scene finally felt a sense of closure. The relief was palpable, production could breathe again, and the show could continue without the constant threat of backstage chaos. Elizabeth's reaction stood out the most. Calm, composed, and reflective, she accepted the verdict quietly, showing a maturity and self-awareness that had often been overshadowed by Andre's explosions. The emotional payoff was immediate. Crew members, previously stressed by constant tension, expressed relief in interviews. Fans flooded online spaces with reactions ranging from cheers to thoughtful analysis. The ban symbolized more than punishment. It represented a restoration of balance. For years, the franchise had thrived on drama, yet Andre and Elizabeth's behavior had pushed it to the edge. Ratings aside, there's only so much volatility a production team can manage before it becomes unsafe and unsustainable. This resolution underscored an important lesson. Fame does not grant immunity from consequences, and charisma cannot justify chaos indefinitely. Andre's loss of control and influence was stark. Once a dominant figure, his absence now highlighted the cost of unchecked ego and persistent aggression. Elizabeth, conversely, emerged with a quiet strength. Her choice to step back, rather than engage in confrontation, elevated her presence in the narrative. Fans began to reinterpret previous episodes, noticing the emotional labor she had carried silently. Her behavior illustrated a subtle yet powerful truth. Influence isn't always loud, and maintaining composure in the midst of turbulence often earns long-term respect over short-term attention. This chapter also highlighted the power dynamics inherent in reality TV. Andre attempted to control everything: the narrative, production decisions, and even Elizabeth's responses. His strategy, however, ignored a crucial variable: the authority of the network. TLC's intervention was inevitable. Once the tipping points occurred backstage, the consequences were unavoidable. This teaches viewers that systems and structures exist to enforce boundaries, and repeated disregard for rules and respect comes with repercussions. Fans, watching from home, could see the pattern clearly. Chaos may attract attention, but authority always holds the final card. The behavioral lessons were abundant. The story reinforced that loyalty has limits, personal boundaries matter, and unchecked volatility ultimately backfires. Andre's persistence in pushing limits created a narrative of downfall rather than admiration. Elizabeth's decision to navigate the chaos without losing herself showed that strategy and self-preservation are powerful tools in high-pressure environments. The contrast between the two highlighted human tendencies: the allure of dominance versus the strength of quiet resilience. Fans who had rooted for either party were forced to reevaluate what they valued in character, behavior, and influence. Even online communities reflected the broader psychological impact. Memes, threads, and reaction videos exploded, analyzing every scene, gesture, and facial expression from the couple's history. Some fans sided with Andre, sympathizing with the pressures of reality fame, while others cheered Elizabeth's steadfast composure. This split mirrored the very tension the couple had created on screen. Drama captivates, but human behavior provokes reflection. The discussions revealed the addictive quality of watching conflict unfold, balanced by the emotional satisfaction of witnessing consequences finally arrive. Production stability was another key result. With the constant threat of disruption removed, the franchise could proceed with filming, storylines, and cast management with greater confidence. The band sent a clear message: behavior matters. Chaos may entertain for a while, but networks will intervene when the cost exceeds the benefit. For fans, it was validation that boundaries exist even in reality TV, and that persistence in crossing lines eventually meets resistance. Elizabeth's calm acceptance provided a model for how to handle extreme situations without escalating further. As the narrative wound down, power dynamics were fully clarified. Andre's volatility no longer dictated events, while Elizabeth's patience and composure elevated her presence even without active engagement. The psychological lessons were tangible: emotional intelligence, restraint, and awareness of consequences often outweigh flashy displays of dominance. The audience could see the difference between temporary attention and lasting influence, between chaos that entertains and chaos that destroys. It's a lesson that resonates beyond television, touching on everyday relationships, workplace dynamics, and social interactions. Fans were left anticipating what would come next. The band created a vacuum, sparking speculation about other high-drama exits, potential cast shakeups, and behind-the-scenes revelations. Social media buzz hinted that the story of 90 Day Fiancé was far from predictable, and that the franchise thrives on tension, personalities, and human behavior in extremes. The permanent exit of Andre and Elizabeth marked a conclusion to one chapter, but it also teased the inevitable emergence of new drama, new conflicts, and fresh lessons for viewers to analyze and debate. And as the door closes on Andre and Elizabeth, the franchise and the chaos moves on without them.